Hello, everyone. I'm so pleased to have today with me John Bryant, who is a client first, strategy second online exercise and nutrition coach. And we are going to be talking about brain health and how that all links together. So, hello, John. How are you doing?
I'm good. And thank you for having me on this. I'm really excited about today.
So am I. So am I. So we'll just go straight into it because I know when people think about nutrition, they're really thinking about their bodies most of the time. But obviously, it does affect our brains, for some people more than others. What are some of the common foods or habits that you believe negatively impacts our brain function?
Uh, the first thing I would always sort of go to is processed foods. But it's one of those things where, like, if you really want to be healthy, both physically and mentally, avoiding processed foods where possible is going to be the key thing for you. And it's so interconnected with other parts of your body. So, for example, the biggest one is your gut health. Now, most people don't actually realize how important your gut health is. But if you understand the fact that your gut is almost like your second brain, there's an interconnected part between your brain and your gut. So what you effectively eat has an impact on your brain and vice versa. So what you think has an effect on how your gut reacts. So I'll give you an example. So we got like what we call gut biome. Think of it like a place where lots of microbes hang out. So bacteria they hang out, and there are good bacteria and then there are bad bacteria. So we have the good bacteria on one hand, which go, right, we're going to be helping you in terms of your immune response. We're going to be helping you in terms of digesting good food. Then you have the bad ones, which actually release chemicals into the body. So in linking it to brain health, some of these bad bacteria, when they release these toxins, go into the brain through the bloodstream, and they can cause the sensation of depression and anxiety.
Yeah, and a lot of brain fog. So I know people have had experiences that when they have like yeast infections and things like that. So when you get the random cravings for you just need sugar and you need bread because the bread feeds the sugar, the sugar feeds the bad bacteria, and you do get brain fog and things like that. And that connection, people don't realize it's there until they don't have the problem anymore.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that actually it's very much a problem as you get older. Because obviously brain fog is something which will happen more and more as you get older. So you'll have more experience of it. But a lot of that is due to the sugar aspect of it. So scientists are now linking brain fog with sugar. So it's almost like a sort of brain related type of diabetes.
Oh wow. I didn't see it like that. I didn't see it like that. And when it comes to habits then, because again, when we're talking about the gut microbiome, I feel like we're only really scratching the surface about this because the gut microbiome is making you crave the foods that will feed it to keep it alive. So it's like, how much of your cravings are you really aware of? And those cravings become the habits. And it's like, where do you start?
I think you've got to understand that if you look at the body as a whole, the brain is the only organ which essentially really needs glucose, i.e. sugar. The other parts of the body can function off the energy from fats. But the brain is the overriding control mechanism. So when you're stressed and you go, oh, do you know what? I just need something. The brain goes, well, I tell you what will make you feel better. You go up to the kitchen, go and grab a chocolate bar, or go to the shops, go get some biscuits, crisps, and I'll give you some dopamine to make you feel better. Now, you get that small hit of dopamine, you feel better, but the long-term damage is the fact that actually, well, even short-term, about 2 hours later, you're crashing. So actually, energy-wise, you're going to be up and down like a yo-yo because all you're going to do a couple hours later is try and get another sugar hit. And the brain goes, well, it give you a little bit more dopamine. Just
So
kind of,
how do we stabilize that then? Because, like just in general, and I have ADHD, so I'm already dopamine dysregulated, like with lots of other things. But that's the whole thing. We don't want to keep getting into this cycle where we need a hit of dopamine. What kind of foods give us like a nice steady drip feed of dopamine as we need it throughout the working day?
well, the way I look at it is, the biggest problem with diet is, especially in the PT world and fitness health, is that they go, right, let's make the diet as boring or as stressful as possible. But, so we take away the good foods, the things that we just take away the fats. Because you go, well, if you eat less fat, you become less fat.
Yeah, no, I need fat.
Yeah, but
I need it.
But this is the thing. Then you're kind of left with a deficit, and you replace it with carbohydrates. But the problem with carbohydrates is it actually can stop you burning fat. It can make you feel lethargic. And a lot of that comes down to insulin. So if you spike insulin more and more, you become resistant to its effect. And if you can imagine that there's a vault, and in that vault is your fat supplies. But guarding that vault are obviously guards. Now, in this instance, insulin. So the more you spike insulin, so you spike 2, 3, 4, 5 units of insulin, that might be okay. You might be able to kind of maneuver your way to the vault and open it up. But when you're kind of getting towards 10, 15, 20 units of insulin, ain't going to happen. And therefore, we have a lot of blood sugar which has to be turned into something. And what does it turn into?
More fat.
Well, fat. But we're told in the fitness industry, you know what? If you don't want to become fat, just eat less fat. It sounds really logical, but it's not.
That's not been my experience at all. And I'm a sugar fiend. So when I'm telling you the cravings that I have for sugar when I have them, they're nothing compared to what happens to my brain when I know I haven't had enough fat. Nothing. Like I could run through buggies, like to go and get cheese. I will wake up in the middle of the night. I need a certain level of fat. So that's why I could never do all those kinds of like vegetable only things. It doesn't work for my brain. I might just use too much of it, or my body uses too much of it, but it feels like every other desire shuts down.
Yeah. And part of that whole process of why fats are going to be better for you is how long it actually takes to process in the body. So you got carbohydrates somewhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours. So you're up and down very quickly, depending on how simple the sugar is. Well, fat, you're talking 3 to 6 hours. So if it's going in and it's being processed between 3 and 6 hours, you're not going to feel hungry. Therefore, you're not going to actually go and find that chocolate bar, that packet of crisps, because your appetite is suppressed and satisfied. And that is probably one of the major key that the industry just misses.
Wow, I didn't think of it like that.
Because it's all about, from fitness body, let's just go and build muscle. We do need to do that.
Yeah.
So we need to eat protein. But we actually need to burn fat as well to get how we want to look, how we want to feel and all that. But the problem is most coaches will completely just ignore the appetite suppression and satisfaction point.
Yeah, and because what coming to my mind now is all of the distraction that this causes. Because again, if we're thinking about busy executives, business leaders, we need to be focused. And if you're constantly hungry, even if you didn't have brain fog, then how focused are you going to be on that meeting, on that presentation? If a part of your brain is distracted by the gurgling in your stomach, if a part of your brain is feeling like how I feel when I haven't had enough fat, where I'm just like, like, how can you concentrate if your body's not getting what it needs to just be in the room?
Yeah. And that's the biggest problem that a lot of people now suffer from, because they've been just conditioned, I suppose is the best word, to think, right,
Mm.
eat less fat. Okay, we've got to replace it with carbohydrates. You look at the obesity epidemic in this country, in the UK, we've had guidelines on what we should be eating probably since the 1970s. What's happened since the 1970s? The obesity rate's gone up.
Yeah.
The incidence of diabetes has gone up. The incidence of cardiac incidents has gone up.
What do you think about fiber?
Fiber, so important. So especially, and this is linked into the gut health,
Yeah.
because it's the food the microbacteria, so the microbiome need. The good
Like
bacteria
the
need
prebiotics to the
the
probiotics.
yeah, they need it.
Yeah.
Think it,
Okay.
and it's the way I like to think of it. It's locked sugar, because fiber is to sugar in one sense, but only the microbacteria in your gut biome can actually have the key to open it and then utilize it. But also from an appetite suppression and satisfaction point of view, you're eating foods which are going to keep you full and regulate yourself.
Yes. Yes, of course, because it all leads to each other. And I did read or see, I'm not sure which, somewhere recently that apparently one of the reasons why we have less fiber in our diets these days is because it doesn't travel very well. So all of the ready meals or anything that can be prepared, lots of things have fiber removed from it because it doesn't store well, it doesn't freeze well. And so therefore we've gotten used to having things without fiber, and we have lots of orange juice and things like that instead of oranges, et cetera, et cetera. And so therefore we mess up our biome.
Yeah, and then that leads to other problems later in life.
Wow. Wow.
But here's the interesting thing. If you look at human behavior, we never really think about what we're doing now affecting 5, 10, 15, 20 years to ourselves.
Mm.
But you think about in terms of those running businesses, they've always looking at 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20-year projections.
Mm. Yes. Like, where do you actually want to be? And then planning it back from there. We're not thinking about our health like that. And is that because, I kind of want to say, is that because obviously nobody can ever fully plan to the nth degree and you never know what can happen tomorrow, but we do plan our businesses with that level of at least a hope, and we try to work towards it. And yet we really just don't think about our health like that. I don't know why we kind of feel like we're going to be the same forever until one day we look at a photo and go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because we don't see it as important.
We
We
don't
don't
think
put
about our
the,
brain. Our brain thinks about everything else.
no, we just kind of just go on autopilot.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Okay, I'll go to the shop and buy something.
Mm.
Or if it's energy drinks, or it's just something which goes, we just try to keep going until the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And then a lot of us, like on a Friday, Saturday night, like to unwind a little bit more. So it's alcohol on top of that.
Yeah. And I think that's coming back to what you were saying before about the restriction and the making everything bland. So therefore, when we do let go, we let go entirely. And maybe that's not the way to go. I was seeing in a few places that it's not about taking things out, it's about adding things in, because then you just won't have space to
Yeah.
eat tons of crisps.
Or simple substitutions of foods. And it
Mm.
doesn't have to be overwhelming. So let's just take rice, probably a staple as in most of our diets now.
Yeah.
What do most people go? White rice.
Because it's quick.
Why? Because supposedly it's more convenient, it cooks a lot quicker,
Mm.
but there's no nutrients in it. It's just sugar.
Yeah. Which
Whereas
probably gives
brown,
you a bit of dopamine as well. And so therefore you want more white rice.
yeah, but you take brown rice, okay,
Mm.
it's probably not as tasty, but it's very nutrient dense compared to white rice
Yeah.
because nothing's been done to it. It hasn't been processed.
Mm.
So in that respect, a simple substitution, if someone would feel that, oh, I need a little bit of carbs, go from white rice to brown rice, white bread, brown bread, white pasta, brown pasta. You see, you haven't actually taken anything away. You haven't restricted.
Yeah.
And it's a good starting place. It's not the ideal place to be, but it's a good starting place for those that are really struggling in terms of managing their energy levels and don't want to overwhelm themselves about making changes, because you get the all or nothing type of people.
Yes.
And then again, business owners are pretty much the same. They're like, right, we're going all in on this venture or this project, but we don't do that for our health because it becomes too stressful.
And also, I think one of the issues might be as well for some people, particularly people in positions of strong responsibility, is that we want to see the results fairly quickly, or you want to see some kind of result, to some kind of indicator to prove that what you're doing is working fairly quickly. And you can't necessarily see that immediately. It might take a few days for you to not feel so foggy, for you to feel more energized, for you to sleep easier. And if you don't see that in like immediately or even in the first week, you're thinking, well, why am I depriving myself of the hit of dopamine, which people aren't going to use that terminology. But I'm not getting the results.
But you look at it, when it comes to results, let's just take the most obvious one, is weight. People go, the scales haven't moved.
Yeah.
Why do all this if the scales haven't moved? But what people don't realize is what's actually going on before the weight really starts to shift. You've got to do a lot of internal stuff. You've got to get the body kind of, okay, we're doing this for the long term. This isn't a quick 2-week try it and then give up scenario. It is like, no, we've got to go through the motions a little bit, 4 weeks or so. Oh, we're actually doing this. Okay. Then the magic starts to happen. But then the small immediate goals, like you said, it's going to be about better energy. It's going to be about better sleep, better mindfulness, better decision-making overall. The ability to actually make a decision nice and quickly because you've got that mental clarity to be able to go and do it. The difference between making a decision and not making a decision could, for a business owner, be tens of thousands, if not millions of pounds.
And I think that's a key thing people need to realize and again, make the connection with, because we can connect it to our bodies, but it's the decision making, because we can get wrapped up in indecision, and that takes even more energy from our brain. And then we don't feel so good. So then we need the sugar hit to make us feel better. And then it's just a cycle, right? So I know people are going to want to know, what's your version of processed foods? Because when I've looked at the list, I was like, I didn't realize that would count as processed. And aren't most things processed these days anyway, except fruit? And even then,
this is now the biggest problem. We've actually probably got more processed foods than real foods.
Unless you have a farm.
Yeah. So I'm not going to, be here and say, oh, just avoid processed foods. But you can limit it. And it's never about completely removing it from my perspective anyway. So the way I look at it is like an 80-20 balance. 80% of the time, you're on it. You're trying to do all the right stuff. 20% of the time, you've got that freedom. And I like to call it freedom because it is like, okay, well, there might be a wedding, there might be a birthday, there might be an after work do where people want to be present and not be worried about, oh, but all the food's going to be terrible in terms of what I'm trying to achieve. So it's looking about, when you remove the element of being perfect and being consistent, and we all know from the world of business, being consistent is better than being perfect.
And consistency looks different for different people. It doesn't mean doing the exact same things every single day. It could be you making sure certain things happen over the course of a month.
Yeah. And it's like exercise is a really good example. People think, right, I should be getting to the gym 4 times a week because that's gold standard, which is blurted out all over social media and, all the coaches. And I go, well, not even I can get to the gym 4 times a week at times because I have a life.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
I have family. I need to recover, and actually recovering is just as good as going to the gym. But I don't beat myself up because I look at it and go, what was my realistic target for this coming week? If I can go 4 times, great. But there might be times where I might go twice. But if my expectation is, okay, well, this week I can only go twice to the gym or exercise, and I meet that expectation, I haven't failed. Failure comes from when the expectation is I should go to the gym 4 times and that's my gold standard. But if I can only make it 3 times or 2 times or even once, then I've completely failed this week.
So then in closing, what would you say to people who they've been listening to this and just now are thinking, oh yeah, I really haven't been thinking about my brain. I've been thinking about my body, but I haven't been thinking about my brain. And maybe actually the food could help me sleep and make better decisions. Other than
Yeah.
doing the immediate swaps of for like white to brown rice, how would you help them from maybe more of a mindset viewpoint perspective to maintain that awareness of their brain and feeding it appropriately?
Yeah. So I always like to start with the client's why. Why are you actually wanting to achieve this? Because if you tell yourself a really good story about, right, I want to lose weight because I want to be more energized. I want to do it because I'm doing it for me. I've had enough of the person I used to be. I need to change and it's got to happen today. Now, if you hear that, like that's got enough emotion behind it. And all emotion is energy in motion. That's what it is. But we're very good at telling ourselves lies. It's like, oh, it's too difficult to cook healthy meals. I haven't got the time. I haven't got the energy. It's a case of sometimes you just don't know the answers. And by the way, that's okay. If you don't know the answers, where can you find the answers? Now, you see how that's a little shift from, I don't know, therefore I'm just going to go wherever. I'll let it go, to how could I actually find out the answers? How
But
could I do this in a way which works for my lifestyle?
yes, yes. Because it's important to me enough to figure it out.
Yeah. But if you ask yourself smarter questions about where you want to go, you will start to get smarter answers.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that because like even in my world, like I say, with the ADHD and stuff, I can cook, but there was a good few years where I could not stand to be in the kitchen. I just didn't have kitchen energy, for want of a better word. And so, I started off with the ready meals and then I managed to progress to put the meat on the bone in the oven and then doing all of the carbs and the veggies around it. And now I'm cooking properly again. But that
Mm.
took me a few years and I had to just accept that this is the best that I can do right now.
Mm. Yeah.
And, just build it up rather than give myself the pressure of feeling like because I can cook, I should be cooking every single evening. I don't have that kind of energy.
Yeah. And you tell anyone that they have that energy every evening to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
But online it makes it like, oh yeah, no, and this just takes half an hour of 10 minutes of prep. There has never been a single recipe I've ever seen that says it takes 10 minutes of prep that actually takes 10 minutes of prep.
yeah,
Not one.
because when you read the recipe the first time, you spent 10 minutes going over it twice.
Yes. Oh, do
Just
I
make
have
it,
that ingredient? What's swap for this ingredient? I don't have soy sauce. Okay. So
yeah, then the phone goes off and then TV's on and you get distracted. And then suddenly you've wasted half an hour before you've even got started.
and now you're extra hungry, which means you definitely don't have the patience to now make the dinner.
Yeah. And sometimes you change your mind, oh, do you know what? It's just easy. Stop this, ring up, get a takeaway.
Yeah. You know? Oh gosh. Thank you so much, John. This is great. Where can people find you when they want to know more?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And if anyone wants a free guide on the 5 reasons why they're not losing weight, I'm happy to guide them to their place and they can download it for free.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Make sure you send me a link to that and I'll put that in the show notes. So people watching and listening, please go into the show notes. You'll find that there. And yeah, this was great. This was food for thought, pun intended. And this made me think about a few things. So make sure you go and check out John. And also for the people who are looking to update their processes, I'm running the sales tune up taste session. So you'll see a link to that in the show notes as well. This was so great. And I look forward to speaking with you again next week. But if you do have any comments for John as well, put them wherever you're seeing and watching this and we'll continue having a chat about it. So thanks so much. And we will chat again next week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.